Star Wars The Clone Wars, the one show that brings all Star Wars fans together without any fighting. The one thing within the Star Wars franchise that everyone can agree is great. Or is it? You see, everyone in the Star Wars fandom talks about this show like it's the best thing ever in the Star Wars universe, when in reality they're probably just remembering the best parts of it. This show has an extreme range in quality. It ranges from some episodes being these amazing stories that challenge your view of the Star Wars universe, to some episodes that are just awful, terrible, and overall almost unwatchable. Now, it is fair to say that there really aren't that many of the unwatchable episodes, but at the same time, there really isn't a lot of the amazing ones either. Most of the episodes actually probably fall somewhere in between, where they're still pretty good, but not quite to that heightened level that you expect when you hear everybody talking about how great the show is. Because of this, I, Nim, have rewatched the entire show and formulated the official Nim TV Star Wars The Clone Wars Essential Episodes list. Before I get into the specifics, I would like to first give a clear explanation as to what this is. It's a list that anyone can use when they're rewatching the show. The list takes what I consider to be the best and most essential episodes and says, hey, only watch these. Whether you are a new timer or someone who has watched the show many times before, I believe that this is the best way to watch the show. If you watch the show in this way, you're cutting out all of the stuff that really isn't that important to the overarching stories of the show, and stuff that's just not that interesting. Because of the fact that this is an anthology series, and a lot of the episodes are just separate stories that don't necessarily have to go together, it actually makes making a list like this pretty easy to do. If you just download the PDF that I have listed in the description below, all you have to do is watch the episodes in the exact order that I have laid out on the list. You can find the entire show on Disney+. For those of you who don't know, this show is actually not in chronological order, which is why the first episode on the list is from Season 3. I also made a few other lists that you can also find in the description. The second list is the Essentials plus Extras list. This list includes everything that is on the Essentials list, plus a bunch of other episodes that I think are still pretty good, but not quite good enough to make it to the Essentials list. Next, there's a list that includes everything except for the terrible and unwatchable episodes. I like to call this list the Cut the Crap list. Underneath the Cut the Crap list is the crap itself. This is the list of the 10 horrible episodes that were too bad to make it to any of the other lists, in case you wanted to know what they were, for some reason. One thing that you may notice is that these lists aren't all in episodic order. That is because, as I mentioned before, this show is not in chronological order. I put these lists in chronological order based on the official chronological Clone Wars episode order found on the Star Wars websites. I will also leave a link to that in the description. Before I dive a little more deeply into this, there are just a few more things I'd like to explain about the list. As you can probably tell by looking at it, this list is separated into different sections. That's because by the time I finished the list, I started to notice that there was this sort of 3-act structure type of thing going on. The first section is kind of like the first act because it does a lot of setting up the status quo for the rest of the show. The second section is filled with a lot of episodes that aren't necessarily extremely important to the overarching stories of the show, but do provide a lot of really good character development and are just really good stories in general. In fact, my favorite story arc of the entire show is actually in this section. The third section is where a lot of final pieces are being put into place to really build up to the ultimate climax of the show, which is in the last 4 episodes. Another thing you may notice is that some of them are highlighted and some of them are not. The purpose of this is to group together episodes that I think are better off if you watch them together in the same sitting. The main reason for this is that a lot of the ones that are grouped together in this way are actually part of the same story arc, so it just makes sense to watch them in the same sitting if you can. I actually do believe that this is one of the best ways for someone who's never seen the show before to watch it for the very first time. Especially if you're really not extremely interested, you're just kind of interested, and you want to kind of test it out and see what you think. If you watch every episode on this list and you still don't like the show, then chances are you probably won't really like any of the other episodes that aren't on this list. Just a few things to note for those of you who are new to the show. It really helps if you've seen the Star Wars movies first, especially the prequels. Also, there are a few characters in the show who are not in the movies who don't really get a proper introduction if you watch my list, because I cut the Clone Wars movie out of the list, and that's where these characters get their proper introductions. This would be Ahsoka Tano and Asajj Ventress. All you have to know is that Ahsoka is Anakin Skywalker's Padawan, and Ventress is the special assassin trained by Count Dooku. With this knowledge, you are perfectly ready to begin. Now that all of that is out of the way, I would like to continue by giving a more detailed description of why I chose the episodes that I did choose, for those of you who want to see that. Anyway, just so everyone knows, there will be spoilers in this video from now on, so for those of you who haven't seen the show yet, go watch it, and yeah, you've been warned of the spoilers. To start off this spoiler section of the video, I'm going to go over the setup episodes. We start off with the two episodes, Clone Cadets and Rookies. These episodes are a great way to introduce you to the clones through the fact that it shows a group of clones training and then ultimately moving on to one of their first big challenges that ultimately leads a few of them to becoming part of the 501st Legion, which is the Legion of Clones led by Anakin Skywalker, and is one of the most important groups of clones throughout the entire show. These episodes serve as a great introduction to the clone trooper known as Fives, who becomes a very important character later on, and also happens to be my personal favorite of all the clones. These episodes also do a great job at showing the clones as being individuals and not just mindless soldiers. This idea is a very big theme throughout the rest of the show, and therefore it's a really good idea to set it up really early on. Next, we have the two episodes Dooku Captured and Gungan General. Okay, first off, I do have to let you know that I promise this is the only episode with Jar Jar in it on the whole list. Everything else in the episode besides Jar Jar is actually really good, so as long as you focus on everything else, you'll be fine. Okay, so these episodes actually serve as the first time we ever really get to know Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Count Dooku within this show. I wanted to have a few episodes that really establish Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship by showing them work together through something to show their friendship and everything. And I think these episodes do a really good job at doing that. Their character dynamic is actually really fun and very important for the entire show, and also really important for the Star Wars universe as a whole. These episodes serve as an introduction to that, and also an introduction to one of the show's main villains. Also, you get a good introduction to the pirate Captain Hondo, who is a really fun character as well, so there's that. We then come to a few Season 2 episodes with Landing at Point Rain and Weapons Factory. There are a few main reasons why I chose to include these episodes. First off, Landing at Point Rain is actually a really good episode at showing the brutality of war. The entire episode is pretty much a non-stop battle where a bunch of soldiers on both sides die. I really think that feeling the intensity of the war is really important for the show as a whole. The other, even more important thing about these episodes is that they actually serve as the official introduction of Ahsoka Tano, as far as this list is concerned. The first episode shows her as a competent fighter, while the second one shows off a little bit more of her characteristics as she meets a good friend, Barriss Offee. This character is actually really important later on in the show, so it actually makes sense to give her a proper introduction as well. Another thing that the second one of these two episodes does really well is show off one of Anakin's key character traits that actually leads to him turning to the dark side eventually. That is his extreme inability to let go of someone he cares about. When it appears that Ahsoka and Barriss have most likely died, Anakin is unwilling to give up on trying to save them, whereas Barriss's master, Luminara Unduli, is willing to let go. Next comes the two episodes Grievous Intrigue and The Deserter. First off, Grievous Intrigue gives us a really good introduction to General Grievous as one of the main villains of the show, while also leading us into the next episode, which is The Deserter. While tracking Grievous down, Rex gets injured and is left in the care of a local farmer who lives on the planet. It turns out that the farmer is actually a clone himself, who deserted the Grand Army of the Republic some time ago and started his own family. This creates some tension between Rex and the farmer, as Rex sees the farmer as just a coward who ran from his responsibilities. This episode is good for a few reasons. One, it reestablishes the idea that clones are actually individual thinkers, and that some of them actually disagree with being part of the war. This also creates some gray areas in the show where you're not actually sure whether fighting the war is right or not. It also serves as a good little character development episode for Rex, who is very important for the rest of the show. Next comes a 3-episode story arc, which has The Mandalore Plot, Voyage of Temptation, and Duchess of Mandalore. The first thing that these episodes do that's really important for the show is that they obviously introduce the character of the Mandalorian Duchess, Satine. She serves as a sort of love interest to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and is also very important later on in the show, too. I think that these episodes do a really good job of showing the relationship that these two characters have, despite the fact that they have to suppress the feelings that they have for each other. These episodes also set up the terrorist group known as Death Watch, led by Pre Vizsla, which are also very important later on in the show. Next, we make it to Season 3 with a single episode entitled Ark Troopers. Remember Fives and Echo from the first 2 episodes on this list? Well, they are back, and they are some of the clones sent to help protect their brothers on Kamino. Because this is where the clones are created, grow up, and are trained, this is the closest thing they have to a home, and therefore it is personal for them. This episode includes the very emotional death of Clone Trooper 99, and shows Fives and Echo really step up to the plate, proving themselves, and causing them to be given the rank of Ark Troopers. This episode sort of finishes up the setting up of these two characters in particular, which is very important later on. Based on my list, this is actually the first time you ever meet Ventress, which is interesting, I guess. We then come to the 2 episodes, Heroes on Both Sides, and Pursuit of Peace. On the surface, these episodes may not seem that important, but I think they are. These episodes do a great job at showing the politics of the war, while also causing the viewers to sort of question which side in the war is actually right. It makes you realize that there are actually people on the separatist side that have good intentions. It also really adds to the idea that there is one man behind both sides of the war, which obviously is very important in a show about the Clone Wars. There is a small moment at the end that reveals the evil side of Palpatine for the first time in the show. The setup episodes finally come to a close with the next 3 episodes, which are Night Sisters, Monster, and Witches of the Mist. The 2 characters that these episodes set up are Ventress and Savage Press. I think that the idea of Dooku betraying Ventress and then her getting the help of the Night Sisters to try to get revenge was the best way to take her character. Otherwise, her character would have been just another villain with a lightsaber. This really adds a lot of dimension to her character that was definitely needed from the beginning of the show. The other character that is set up, Savage Opress, is very important because that eventually, later on in the show, leads to the introduction of Darth Maul. Also, the story of Savage is just heartbreaking. When he did everything he could to save his brother, and then he was brainwashed and commanded to kill his brother anyway. The show gets really dark at times.